Vincent Hall, and welcome to another episode of our Featured Artist series. Today, you're going to get the wonderful opportunity to meet and hear more about the work of one of our veteran artists, Mrs. Judy Clair. Judy has been a resident at Vincent Hall along with her husband for a little over a year now and came in already a seasoned veteran artist and has been such an influence to the beginning painting folks in seeing her work and how it's progressed. Without further ado, Mrs. Judy Clair. Judy, I'd like to thank you so much for agreeing to be this week's featured artist.
Well, it is my pleasure, Mel. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, thank you. Well, I thought you might start by sharing a little bit about your life's journeys.
Okay, well, I knew you were going to ask that question, so I thought, I think I'll talk about our time in Africa because it's a little different from what people's experiences has been. And though I must say that when Bill came home one day and said, "Hey, we're going to Southern Rhodesia," I said, "What? Where was that?" He says, "Well, it's in Africa." Oh my gosh. And the first thing I thought of was, oh my gosh, does that mean I'm going to have babies in a little mud hut? No, I don't want to do that. But we did go to Southern Rhodesia, and it was interesting and exciting. And one little story to give you a taste of what it was like was that these were the days when your household effects came after 6 months because they were coming by ship. So we moved into Salisbury and moved into a brand new house, bare grounds because nothing was planted, and we got the household furniture from the embassy, which wasn't much. And I kept walking around and seeing all these bare walls, and it just, and hardly wait till my things get here. But an interesting experience that happened there is that we had a cook whose name was John. And he was more like a cook houseboy kind of a thing. And we got along really well. It was great. And then one day, the police came to our house. And they came to the back door. I don't know whether I wasn't home or I didn't know anything about it. They came and they took John away. Oh. So I asked the remaining nanny and I guess it was the gardener, what happened to John? Oh, the police came and took him away because he killed his brother. What? I've had a killer in my house with my young children. Oh my God.
Oh no.
And then I said, oh, that's horrible. That is terrible. And I was really upset. And then later I found out that it didn't necessarily mean it was John's blood brother. It would have been another boy who had been born in the same year as John. All the kids that were born in 1 year, all the sons, became brothers of each other. And this lasted through the rest of their lives. So I don't know whatever happened to John, if he really did it or not, but he never came back. And we got along without him. We had another story about hiring a cook, but I don't want to take up too much time with Africana.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but another time when we were in Ethiopia, we arrived and Bill told me they have a little water problem. I said, oh, okay, I can deal with that. We landed in Ethiopia and I wasn't about to get off the plane because there was sand all around us. I said, no, this isn't Asmara. That can't be. Look, there's. He says, yes, it is. Come on, get off. Gotta get off the plane. Well, I didn't mean this, Bill. Then I found out it had not rained there for 7 years.
Whoa.
So we talk about treasuring water. We were brought water a couple of times a week in our first house we were in, which happened to be across the road from a brothel and outside the army gates. And I was telling, we can't live here, we just can't. And it had a beautiful staircase that went up to the second floor, but it was marble steps and space between each step. And I had two tiny little boys. I thought they're going to climb up there and go through. We have to get out of here. So we did arrange. I found another house and we moved. And soon after that, there was news that Haile Selassie was coming through town, and he was going to be at the graduation ceremonies for the University of Asmara. Great. And so we watched and watched. People started coming. We lived on Airport Road, so there were lots of people from the communities that came out. And finally, he was supposed to arrive at 11 o'clock, and finally about 1, he started coming in. And as he drove in a beautiful black convertible, behind him, we started to hear rumbles and thunders. And the rain started. So the rain followed Haile Selassie into the middle of town, where the town clock had stopped at 11 o'clock and did not start up until he arrived again. Now, you might think that's a myth, but I'm telling you, funny things happened in Africa. So that was another interesting issue. And from there, we came back to the States, for a couple of months, and then we went out to Kenya, which was my favorite posting because I got to teach art there.
Oh.
And I said, go, just hire me as an African. I'll just take that salary. So that worked out well. And it was the most wonderful school. I just loved it, but I don't want to take up time telling you very much about that. But that was where I had a student who came in. He was a 7th or 8th grader, and he came over to the desk. He had bright red hair, carrot red hair, and the biggest, bluest eyes you've ever seen that blinked. Blink, blink, the head is jerking, blink, blink. Think, oh my, what am I going to do with this person? And it was there that I really got into art therapy, because this is what helped that youngster and a bunch of others as well. So in Nairobi, the art teacher became the therapist as well. So that's how I got interested in therapy, and came back here and got a master's degree in that, and had a very interesting career, but no painting. No, very little painting through all that period. And it wasn't until after I retired that I started painting again. But not, I said, oh boy, now I've got time, put up my easel, put up the beautiful white canvas, looked at it every single solitary day for a year and a half. And each day I said to myself, well, I don't think I can do it today, but tomorrow I'm going to do it. And finally somebody said to me, I finally complained. I said, I can't make myself do it. I can't put a stroke on that canvas. Decided that I needed maybe to study with somebody who did things differently, and told me about this woman who used knives for her painting. And so that's where I began to do painting, and it came back to me. And so from then on, I moved from, 2 other teachers, and finally here in Benson Hall.
Wow.
So,
That's quite a journey. What age were the kids that you taught in Nairobi?
well, they started off being all secondary students, but I looked down a little. The art room was on the top of the hill. Looked down, and I have to tell you this. The rooms for teaching were what they called rondavels. So they were round and had what kind of some fiber on the roof.
Oh.
But the way the inside was divided into quarters. So there was a different grade in each quarter, and there was the teaching room in the middle with windows that went out into each classroom. So the teacher could be in contact with her students while doing whatever she or he needed to do. So I noticed that all of these rooms were putting up pictures that were mostly, photographed, and then the children colored them in with crayons. And so I said, oh my, that's horrible. I cannot stand that.
Yeah.
So I went in and asked the teachers, would you like to have some instruction? Yes, please come.
Yeah.
So that worked out very well. I loved that school because I saw students from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And you could see families of people. And I thought that was very interesting, but that gets into counseling. So
it sounds like you could develop quite a bond with those kids, though, having seen.
Oh, I did. I loved them, and we had a wonderful time.
When you came back to the States, did you open up a practice with art therapy, or what? I'm curious what you did more with that.
No, well, I did an internship in art therapy, and I thought it was a little dull. But then it was with two different art therapists in a community therapy section set up. And I said, well, I'm really thinking about going into, starting off in art therapy. And they said, oh, no, don't do that. There are hardly any jobs.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, well, okay. And really, in the back of my mind, I thought it really wasn't exciting or interesting. So then I began, let's see, first I worked in the Women's Center in Vienna.
Oh.
And enjoyed that because it was new, just getting off the ground, and they allowed me to do anything I wanted. And so I did a lot of research, developing new programs, and found that very interesting. And because I used my imagination so much in connecting with people and helping them get to whatever it was that was disturbing them, but by the time I got home, I was mentally exhausted, and I just was in no mood to paint. So that's why, it took me so long to get back to painting. But now I'm doing it. I love it. And so shall we talk about some paintings?
This first one looks like folks at the beach.
Well, it is indeed folks at the beach. It's three of my grandchildren and one daughter-in-law who is watching over her baby there. It was a little cool, so they've all got on jackets and things. But that's one of my very early paintings, and I still like it, except I'd like to work on the daughter-in-law a little more, I think, to change that. But I still love the colors and so forth.
Oh, yes. We have this one.
Oh, and that is from a photograph that I took from across the road to three people who were, I'm sure, taking a break from their journeys and were having a cold drink there. And that they're just very interesting. I didn't have to make it look exactly like the people. And I love the lady with a smirk on her face.
Yeah.
Pudgy lady. Yeah. There.
Well, you captured everyone's personality there. I feel like I'm in a very relaxed little sidewalk cafe. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it was a charming threesome, and I couldn't resist it. So that's what I do. I take my cell phone and I go out and capture sites that I really like, and do most of my work with the beginning of the photograph, and then sort of use my imagination and change things around a little bit.
That's good. Okay.
Okay, and this is one that I think I'm finished, but I may change my mind. So this is one of my very latest ones, and I'm experimenting with light in a different way. I don't generally do landscapes, so this has been a journey, just trying to get the light coming through the tree, but not overwhelming everything else. And so I've enjoyed doing that.
I like the backlighting with that sun kind of coming through, and how you're extending the tone of the sky into the purpley hues at the edges. It's just
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to get, because this was somebody else's photograph, a different kind of tree, different landscape and everything, but it's supposed to be the Blue Ridge back there.
hmm.
Because I did take that photograph out in around Warrenton, Virginia, which
Oh,
is where I lived for 25 years while I was doing psychotherapy.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
Wow. Oh, that's stunning. It has like almost a magical feel to it. It just feels like I want to be there right now. Like it's
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you very much for saying that, because that is the feeling that I got too. This tree standing up, trying to be straight, can't quite make it, but the sun is blessing it in a way,
mm.
as the sun is beginning to go down.
Oh. All right, do we have this one?
Okay. Oh, this is my youngest son. And
Oh.
this is a photograph that I took in Africa, in Kenya, as a matter of fact. That was our red cooler that when we picnicked. And so this is on a picnic out in the bush. My son has on an African shirt and an African hat, because all children, at least all what they called European children, had to wear hats when they were out in the sun to
Oh.
protect them. So a lot of people think this is a girl, but it isn't. It's a boy.
That's
And he's eating watermelon and spitting seeds.
oh, fun.
And this is one of my daughters in law and her very favorite dog.
Oh.
Uh, and I did two paintings of this subject because I had different ideas for doing them. So I finally got this one. I
Mm.
think I've worked on it since this a little bit,
Oh.
on the nose.
I
Not sure.
love the composition on this though. It's a beautiful flow and oh. All right, then we have this one.
Oh, these are two Irish musicians where I felt forced to go to this Irish thing. Oh, here we go, Danny Boy all over again. I've been to many Irish, as a good Clair, as a married Clair. You know, I went to a lot of Irish exhibitions and performances and so on. But this man playing the violin really intrigued me. Maybe, I don't know if you can tell that his foot is going up and down as he is going to the beat of the music. And he was so energetic, moving all around and going up and down. I took a zillion photographs trying to get him when he was bending over, but none of them really came out to be a good composition. So I didn't use them. But it is interesting as this man on the left is frantically playing all over. The man on the right is still sitting stock still and looking at his friend. He does not move at all,
Mm.
but is so connected to the friend that their music was gorgeous, was wonderful. And even I, who was tired of Irish songs, enjoyed this performance very much.
Mm.
So I loved it, and I liked the colors in this, and I think that the colors that I used helped to promote the idea that this was a very energetic setting.
Oh yeah, the warm tones really bring you, that always is energizing. The oranges, the reds, the yellows. Did you
Yeah.
change did you change the colors then to get that energy?
Oh, yes. The background wasn't like that at all.
Oh,
Except I think there was a post that came down. The orange wasn't orange. It was a nasty shade of brown, but there was too many browns there.
I'm glad
So
you brought that up. Oh,
yeah,
because I was thinking a lot of times when people come down to learn painting, they think they have to put exactly what they see in the photo back on the canvas, and this is
yes,
testament that you don't. So
you don't. I always change things around. And I started, I think I did most of this painting with knives, as
oh,
I remember. And I remember I got the fellow on the left's hair right, which it doesn't show up much on this small photograph, but on the wall it does. And
mhm.
that's one of my favorite paintings.
Oh, okay. Oh, the other dog picture.
Yes, the other dog picture, the same gal, taken, it's interesting, it's taken from the same photograph, but you can see how I have changed the colors, changed the background a lot in the first one and this one, even though it's from the same photograph, it's painted entirely differently.
I would never have guessed it was the same
Yeah,
photo. That's amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
So I don't try to paint realistically, except for a dog to get more like a dog.
Well,
But I do take uh, chances with the way I rearrange things and coloring and so forth.
hmm.
So
I
yeah, I don't know which one I'll send to her, but we'll see.
know. Does she know they exist at least? Has she?
Yeah, she does.
Oh, okay.
But there's another long story that goes with that. But I haven't sent them to her yet.
Ah,
Yeah.
got it. Okay. Still life.
And this is a still life that I did, I think, in one sitting in a class that I was taking. And it's a small painting, smaller than what I generally do. But I just enjoy the negative space in this particular arrangement of vegetables. And
Oh, yeah.
so that's that.
Okay. It's enjoyable. And like it's a good color theory picture as well, too, with the use of the warm and cool colors
Yeah.
without black. Yay.
No black.
Oh,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right.
I was taught to never use black, by the
No,
way.
me too. I mean, we do
But
use it, but
yeah, I used the black in this one on this guy's shirt and the middle of, you can see between the sides of his jacket, the lapels, that there he has an interesting undershirt.
mhm.
And this is the snake doctor
Mm.
from California. And when I was visiting my son in LA, I came inside, I was outside for some reason. David, there's the most interesting fellow out there. He has in this big red hat and he looks very strange. And he was very open to me. So David said, "Oh, that's the snake doctor. Let's invite him in." So we did, and I got out my trusty cell phone and took some photographs. And he is a character for sure.
Mm.
And I love the color of his hat, which I cut off. I see in my photograph. It really goes up. Oh, it's right over here, but it's much higher.
Oh, okay. So you see the whole hat. Maybe we can see.
Yes, you do, and a little bit above that. So, and you see further down, it's
Oh,
really a cut off. Oh, maybe a quarter of the painting.
oh no. I
But
can
he
look at
was very
this,
interested.
but you captured that spark in his eyes. He feels like a vibrant person.
Oh, and he was, and he told stories, and he showed us. He pulled out the stuff in his pockets and laid them out on the counter. So we could choose what we wanted, and I think, well, I want the photographs. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was fun. A really
Oh,
interesting
wow.
experience.
Oh, I
So
bet.
a lot of my paintings, I think, a theory. a theorem for me is that I really enjoy people. I really enjoy their commonalities with everybody, but their differences too. And I honestly believe everybody has a story worth telling. So I'm continuing my interest in people, doing the psychotherapy with them and also doing paintings of people. A lot of the same
Oh,
experience.
I so agree. I
Yeah, yeah.
think I have one
But,
more. There it
all
is.
right.
Okay.
And this is one of my favorite paintings as well. Some of that's cut off too, but this one was done entirely with painting knives.
Mm,
And I was seriously into looking at color and how it changes going around objects, which you can see in the plate here, and a
mm.
little bit in the orange, I think it was. So I like that one too.
Oh, yes. No, I really enjoy the negative space shapes too on this because they all
Yeah.
kind of interplay with the figure and the fruit and the bowl.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to share when you just said, I believe everyone has a story to tell. I almost fell off my chair, but I didn't because
Yeah.
that's how I would start every art class that I taught in high school. I used that
Yeah.
phrase. Like, I feel like
Did you? Yeah.
I,
Well, I will share with you that while I was living in Nairobi, it was only 2 years that I was able to teach there, but they were the best years of my whole career in Africa because I loved teaching art. And I learned because in that situation, I had secondary students, but they could vary in ages. So I had to keep them all interested. And even those that I was doing art therapy with had to be included in this. So I would do a presentation of 3 different projects. And so
mm,
the students were then supposed to do two of the subjects, but they could choose which one they did first. And what that did was that there was never a moment that people didn't have something to do
right.
while they were waiting for other people to finish. I thought, I should write that up because I didn't do it when I was teaching art in the US.
Oh, yeah.
But it was really good, really worked.
Hmm.
And because I like music to do painting with, but I couldn't do that in Africa. So I went to the local, I think it was even called Woolworths, but didn't have too many things in. But I found chimes.
Oh,
So I bought all these little chimes and I hung them from the rafters in the room. And so there was a gentle tinkling, and it was a really wonderful place to be. It was a wonderful situation. And the kids loved it, and I loved it.
oh, you created a wonderful environment, multi-sensory too. It's right.
I took, yeah, I even had a center set up. If whatever the project was, is if it didn't trigger something in your mind, you could go back to that center where I had my desk very close to it because with teenagers, you don't want an isolated spot. But I had rocks and feathers and sticks and pictures of all different kinds that
Mm,
they were welcome to go through. And because in Africa, you had to use what was available.
mm.
It was a very interesting experience. And we did a lot of different things, but it fit into the culture. Every place that we landed had a new language, a new situation, and a new house. And so the first part of our being there was I had to get the kids in school, find the church, find the doctors, find everything. That took up a good bit of time. And then I had to figure out what to do with my time because I didn't have a job. I had all these people working in the house doing everything that I would have done in the United States. And so I learned to go out into the community in several different ways, but always to be connected with the people native to that culture and find a way to work with them. And one episode, as I said, I learned more from them, I think, than they learned from me, was in southern Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. And I went out to a township, an African township, and I worked with people, women whose husbands had gone into town to make money. They were in the village out in the township, and they were trying to run a like a nursery school. And so I said, they had nothing. They had no equipment. They had nothing for the kids to do except play with rocks and play out in the sand. So I thought, well, I've got to do something about this. So I said, what can I do? Oh, there are several shops, native shops in the township that made furniture. So they would have wood scraps. And we could bring the wood scraps in, we could turn them into blocks, they could build with that.
Oh.
Oh ho. So I explained to them as well as I could with an interpreter. So the next week when I went out, I said, okay, I'm going to bring in the wood scraps. So they brought in these two huge gunny sacks and put them in front of me. And I said, oh, good. And then I opened them up and they were full of sawdust.
Oh.
I thought, oh my, what can I do? Well, I could make paste, maybe we could do paper mache, but I wasn't prepared that day to do that. So I said, okay, this is not quite what I meant. So let's us all go over to the woodworking shop. Okay. So the translator, who was a social worker whose husband worked for the embassy, was how I got there, led us in front. I was next to her, and behind me were a train of African women. I can't remember how many there were. We went to the woodworking shop. And when we were there, I started picking up scraps from the floor. And I'm saying, could we use this? Could we have this? And then, okay, so they started picking these things up with me, and we brought them back to the room, which was the classroom, and we started sanding them down. And then, they thought they were beautiful. So, okay, these are for the children to play with. Okay. So the next week when I come out, there are all these shiny things, smooth surface, up on a shelf. No kids were playing with them at all.
Oh.
And it took me a while to understand that building things, like our children build things up, with blocks.
Right.
They did not. Their homes were made out of cow dung and soil, and they were round. So they did not have that in the back of their mind, so they didn't understand that. That's what I mean.
Oh.
That was a big learning for me.
Oh.
I don't know what they learned from anything at all.
Wow.
But it was truly an interesting experience.
Wow. Oh, it must have been.
And I tell you, we think of poverty here in this country. It is nothing compared to how they had to live, particularly in the time that we were in Salisbury. It was, most people still lived out in the bush in townships, and Africa has changed a great deal since we were there.
Thank you, Judy, for sharing that work. What a treasure of different experiences that you were able to capture with photos and life experiences. But I noticed you're sitting in what looks to me like a home gallery.
Well, it is sort of a gallery as well as a studio, because I'll just move over here a little bit. And you can see that I have my easel set up back here, and I have enough. I need space to walk back as I'm painting. And so this has worked out pretty well. It's a little scrunched, my little art closet, but it works. And I like being able to change things here when I put my paintings around and look at them, and then I see what I want to change, and I can just do it.
Oh, that's
So I enjoy that part of it. But going down to the art room gives me more room, and it gives me other people, which, as you can tell, I'm a people person, and I really like the energy, I think, that is produced when a bunch of people are working on art, working together, and we encourage each other and help each other when we get stuck. So I love being down there. I enjoy being up here too. So
that's nice to have both.
And yeah, and thank you, Mel, for making that space down there for us all to enjoy and to share. I have to put in the share.
Oh, no, I agree. And I'm glad that it can be used 7 days a week. I think it should be.
All of us who have been able to use the art room while we've been going through this pandemic are blessed to have that place to let things out and to do something different, to be totally focused on something else so we can forget the difficulty of being closed in and not being able to hug our kids and that kind of thing. So I am grateful, very grateful for the art room and for you for getting it going. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being part of our group down there. A very integral part, I might add, too, and inspirational. It's nice to have veteran artists work along with the newbies. They help them see what they can do.
But, yeah. Well, I know when I first went down there, the art teacher in me came out, and I had to quiet that part of me down. Say, it's been, I haven't taught art since 1972 or 3 or 4 or something like that. So,
well, as our fellow art teacher, I believe we never stop teaching. So I think
I've noticed that. Right. And I know there are others. Sue and Maureen are also art teachers.
Yes, so we have a common grade. I enjoy that collegiality among everyone too. It's fun.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, thank you again, Judy. I so appreciate it. And I hope people get a chance to see your work as they come down. I know some's hung up in the studio and you switch things out. So I invite everyone to take a look.
Good.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Judy, for sharing that wonderful experience that you had in Africa. It's very inspiring. I also enjoyed, as a fellow art teacher, hearing about some of the tricks of the trade that you used when you were teaching art. I'm sure everyone will enjoy seeing Judy's work again in the slideshow that follows, but she's always creating more. So feel free to stop by either her apartment where she has her art closet, but I think it looks more like a gallery, or come down to the art center because she's interchanging some of the work that's on display down there on a regular basis, and you'll be sure to find something inspiring. Thank you again for joining us. Stay tuned next week for another episode of our Featured Artist Series. And until then, stay safe and be well, Vincent Hall.